Say good.
Good.
Can you smile with that pudding?
Oh, that was cute. Mr. Pudding Face had a Popeye smile, and the Popeye smile was on the Pudding Face, and the kid was having a little chocolate pudding Popeye smile at the Pudding Face, and the Mr. Pudding Face had a Popeye smile with a Popeye smile on this pudding little face, and a Popeye puff pass Popeye's face, Pudding Face, Mr. Popeye Face, and he was smiling, and the Pudding Face was a chocolate smile, and the Popeye Face had a Popeye smile, and the kid was like smiling for the Popeye camera, and Mr. Popeye Face had Mr. Pudding Face, and Mr. Pudding Face had a Popeye smile, and Mr. Popeye has his pudding smile with the Popeye face, and the Popeye face with the pudding face with the Popeye smile, and the Popeye had a pudding face, and Mr. Pudding Face was pudding on his face, while Popeye was making a Popeye smile, and Popeye smile was smiling all the while with the pudding face had a Popeye smile, and the kid was having a good time with his mother, and the Popeye smile had a pudding face, and it was like pudding on the Popeye smile, and the pudding was all over the Popeye smile, and the Popeye smile was on Mr. Pudding's face, Mr. Pudding Face with the Popeye smile, and which Popeye smile was Mr. Pudding Face? Well, it was the one with the chocolate pudding, and the kid was having quite a laugh with the Popeye smile, and he was cutting a kid to smile for the camera, and he gave you a little bit of kind of a chocolate pudding, and it was Mr. Pudding Face with Popeye smiles, and Popeye smiles on the pudding face, and Mr. Pudding Face had a Popeye smile, and put a Popeye smile on everyone's face, and no one else had a pudding on their faces. The kid with the Popeye smile did. Then Popeye smile was also all the while, and Myra smile kind of try on the while. Then Mr. Popeye smile had a Mr. Pudding Face, and when you're putting Mr. Pudding on the face, you also put a Popeye smile on the Popeye file, and the pudding face had a smile as Popeye smile in the Popeye style. The Popeye smile goes all the while. And Mr. Pudding Face with the Popeye smile, and Mr. Popeye smile was now trying to get the pudding on his face. And he didn't really care. He had the pudding on his face, and all the while he had a Popeye smile. And the mother was like, and he'd get a little smile over the camera, and he's like, oh, this is gonna giggle, and I'm having some more pudding on my face with the Popeye smile. And the Popeye smile had a pudding on his face, and the pudding on his face was the Popeye smile. And the reason for the Popeye smile was for the pudding on his face, was Mr. Pudding Face with the Popeye smile was his sharing of the fun. And Mr. Popeye smiles, and with the pudding on the pudding of the Popeye smile, and Popeye smile had the pudding on his face, and putting on his face was the Popeye smile, and Popeye smile was putting on his face. And all the while he had a Popeye smile, and Popeye smile was the pudding on his face, and Mr. Pudding on his face was putting on a Popeye smile, and the Popeye smiles on there all the while, and Mr. Popeye Face with the Mr. Pudding on his face with the Popeye smile, and the little kid was just sharing it all the while. The Popeye smile with the pudding on his face, and he put a pudding on his face, and the Popeye smile, and the Popeye smiles there all the while. Mr. Pudding on his face, and why he had a pudding on his face is because he's going to put a pudding on his face. It was a Popeye smile. Did you make a Popeye smile for your mother? Popeye smile. And what's the Mr. Pudding on your face? You got some pudding on your face. Is that a Popeye smile? I got a Popeye smile, Mr. Pudding on your face, pudding on